Today we're going to make these fun hoop ornaments out of a few craft supplies. So the supplies you'll need are some embroidery hoops. Now these are a small 3-inch size, but any size you want to work with is fine. And then you'll need some Sculpey clay. Now I love the Sculpey Soufflé oven baked clay, but you can actually use any of the Sculpey oven baked clay products for this same technique. And then you'll need some felt, a variety of like glitter paints and a snow paint, some lace and some ribbon, beads if you want them, clay cutters, clay tools, paintbrushes, an X-Acto knife helps a lot, and actually a palette knife really works well too. Now you can add anything you want to the inside of your hoop ornament. So I'm going to walk through the techniques I've used to make these and make a couple different ones. But then you can use these same techniques to make whatever you want on the inside of yours. So the components that go inside the ornament are completely up to you. Alright, so let's start by making the hoop itself. You'll need a hoop. I'm using a 3-inch size once again. And then you'll need some felt. So scrap pieces of felt work great for this. I used gray on most of my ornaments, but the snowman we're going to make in a minute, I actually put blue on the back. So any color you want, it'll slightly show through the glitter effect that we're going to add, but it won't show through completely. So you just want to add that felt to the embroidery hoop, and then you'll just use a craft knife and cut off all the excess, and then we'll be ready to add some glitter and fun to the outside of this hoop. Alright, so once you have all the excess felt trimmed away, then we're going to add some glitter fun. So this is Glitterific paint from Folk Art, and I like this silver or white color. And then you just want to add a bunch of this to the inside of this hoop, and then we're going to spread it out with a paintbrush. So this paint is super thick, because you might be able to tell. And I added a pretty large glob to the inside. Now this paint has all of these details in it. So it has big pieces of glitter, large pieces of like holographic pieces. Like everything you need is in one bottle. So it adds kind of a layered effect all with one step. So we just want to spread that out all the way into the bottom. Then once you have your base glitter layer, we want to do something to hide the outside of this embroidery hoop. And I'm going to use a palette knife, and this is some snow paint. So it's a really thick snow-like texture paint. And I'm going to add that to the inside surface of this embroidery hoop. So all the way around the inside like that, as well as on this outside rim, to sort of hide any excess felt that may be hanging on, and just the embroidery hoop itself. Then you can just set this aside to dry and work on your clay pieces. I have a few different colors of clay here. Once again, I'm using the Sculpey Soufflé oven baked clay. And I'm going to make a couple of different things to go inside these ornaments. So the first one I'm going to make is a snowman. Now, the same technique is used for all the ornaments that I made. So I made a Christmas tree and a gingerbread house already. And then I'm going to make the snowman and maybe a gingerbread man instead of a gingerbread house. But the same technique would be used for all. So on the snowman, first of all, we don't want him to be any bigger than the 3-inch hoop that we've used. So we just have to be cautious of that. And you can use a blank one and kind of test your pieces inside there. So this is probably a little big, so I'm going to start all over again. Now, playing with clay is just like playing with play-doh, just like you did when you were little. So I'm just making a ball and then flattening that ball out, and you have a perfect snowman shape. And then we'll make 2 more of these, and maybe a hat to go on top out of the black, and then this one will be ready for the oven. It's maybe a little big. The best thing about working with clay is that you can just start all over again if you're finding that it's not working. And I think this size will work well. Okay, so then, once we have our snowman, we're going to make, I think we'll do a hat as well as like a carrot-like nose. So I'll get some orange. But then we'll leave the buttons. I'm actually going to use beads for those. So like the buttons for his face and for down the front. I'm actually going to use beads for those. So I will leave those off. You could do those with clay absolutely as well. I just want a couple of different elements to these ornaments just to kind of make them interesting. Alright, and now we'll get the black out and we'll just do the same thing. Now, because this is oven baked clay, it can be exposed to the air and still be soft. So you can absolutely, you know, just leave it uncovered like this and it'll still be soft later. Now, when you're dealing with, so I'm dealing with the black and the pigment will kind of get on my hands a little bit. So you want to be sure to wash your hands, especially if you're going to deal with the white later, that you don't get the black onto the white. So all I did was make a hat-like shape, and then I used just this plastic knife to cut it in half. And then we have a hat that'll kind of lay flat. And then we'll just make a brim. So same thing when you played with Play-Doh as a kid. You can make long snakes with it and that type of thing super, super easily. Alright, so let's make a brim for his hat. And then kind of flatten that out. So then we have a cute hat for our snowman. We can actually put that on slightly crooked if we would like. And now I'm going to actually wash my hands. Then get that orange and make a small nose. And then this one will actually be ready for the oven. Now I'm working on a Sculpey mat, and the mats are actually oven safe. So I can make my project right on the mat and then pop it right into the oven. And it's actually non-stick for the clay. So I personally really love working with the mat, but you can absolutely not work with the mat if you would like. Just maybe use parchment paper or something that it won't stick to as easily, and that will go in the oven. Alright, so I just made sort of a cone shape. And we'll add that and maybe make it a little crooked. He's going to be a little quirky. That may be a little big, so let's make him even smaller. There we go. So now, just that quickly, we have a cute snowman shape, and it's ready for the oven. So now let's try a gingerbread man. So I can actually just move my snowman over to the side, and then we'll do a gingerbread man. So first thing first is we're going to use the brown. And I think I'm just actually going to freehand a gingerbread man-like shape. So I want these to be a little quirky. If you want yours to be perfect, use something like a cookie cutter or something like that as a guide. Or you can even print off a gingerbread man shape off the internet and then just kind of lay it on top and use that as a guide to cut by. Alright, so this comes in super handy. So it's just a plastic roller. And I can roll out my clay into a nice even flat piece. And then we can just cut something like a gingerbread man. We'll just peel away all that excess. And then just kind of clean it up. So now what I would like to do, I would like to have my gingerbread man holding a candy cane. Now this is the same candy cane technique that I used on the gingerbread house. So I'm going to just show it and do another candy cane. So it's super, super simple. just roll out long snakes of clay in both red and white. I like to do the white first. We talked about needing to get the pigment off your hands before you start on the, especially light colors, but especially the white. So I like to do the white first and then the red. And just do snakes that are approximately the same length. And then just twist the two together. So I have them both in my hand, and then I just twist. And you just do that until you have something that resembles a candy cane. And then you can just roll it. And there you have it. Twist it more if you need to. There you have a candy cane. So now I can make candy cane shape. Put that in his hand. I'm going to actually thin out his hand slightly, sort of make it curl up around the candy cane. Now you can also use clay cutters. So I used like the star cutter for the top of my Christmas tree. They make a wide variety of cutters, so you can also use those to decorate your ornaments. So be sure to look at Sculpey for a variety of those as well. I ended up doing a few additional details with clay, so just some long, thin ropes around some places, a little smile, and then I actually cut a heart with the heart cutter and put it in the center. And you want to bake them according to the package directions, so it just says on the back. So in this case it's 275 for 30 minutes per 1/4 inch of thickness. Then after they're baked and I've allowed them to cool, you can tell that I can't move them at all or alter them, so they are ready for our ornaments. Now I do want to add a little something to these before I add them inside of our embroidery hoop piece. So what I like to do is take some more of this glitterific paint. You can use any of the colors that they make. I'm going to just use this clear white, silvery looking one for my snowman. There's a metallic one that has some copper accents in it that I'll use for the gingerbread. We're just going to paint that on these pieces, just to add a little something to them before we add them to the embroidery hoop. So this color is actually clear enough that you can add it to things like this black clay, and then it just adds a few sparkles without actually really changing the color. Alright, so there's our sparkly snowman. And then we'll pick out a few beads to add. Hot glue to actually attach it to the embroidery hoop itself, as well as add on those beads. You can also add more snow down here if you need to, some of the snow paint, if he's not actually sitting on the embroidery hoop itself. So just kind of build up the snow around the base, allow that to dry again, and then he will appear to be sitting on the embroidery hoop. So now we want to finish off this little guy. We're actually going to add a little scarf. So I'm just going to use felt, our super thin piece. I'm actually going to tie it in a double knot, similar to like if you were pinning it around his neck. And then we'll actually just hot glue that just around, somewhat like that. So that adds just another element to our ornament. Layering on those cute details. I'm going to finish the ornament off. So we're just going to use lace, hot glue that around the outside. Then we just want to tie a bow and a piece of white ribbon. We're going to add that and sort of cover up some of this fastener at the top. So we're just going to hot glue that onto the front. And then we'll want to run another piece of ribbon through the fastener. And you can just knot it, hide the knot, and your little ornament is complete.